Alright guys, welcome back to another video. In this one, we're going to be recapping the trades that I took this week, starting with options, moving into the trades, and finally how I'm framing the markets going into 2026. Now, if you're new here, I call out all the trades that I'm taking every Monday, and then I recap them every Friday or Saturday. Now, let me start just by saying this was very much a transition type of week, early year positioning, some profit taking, and a lot of patience on my end. And before I get into positions, I want to note that for context, this week was specifically about playing weekly options, meaning everything was set to expire at the end of this week. With weeklies, my goal is very simple. I'm targeting roughly 1% per week on capital tied up per position, and I'm targeting 1% on the overall account that I have. I'm not trying to hit home runs here. I'm stacking small, high probability wins. Coming out of December, I'm actually 2% ahead of my goal of 1% per week. So this gives me a really, really good buffer coming into the new year with an extra 2% to play with that kind of can stack up or help me ease into other positions where maybe I'm lacking on a week. Maybe I hit a 0.5% week. I have an extra 1.5% over to hit my monthly and yearly goal. Weekly options just give me a faster time decay, quicker feedback, and the flexibility in slower market conditions. And this is exactly what I wanted this week, especially with transitioning from December price action now into January. We have a full new year of positioning. So this gives me the option to stay flexible and kind of see where I want to go week by week. So to start with Palantir, this was a very interesting one. This was the only covered call that I had this week, and this expired worthless, meaning the shares that I own did not get called away from me. This was kind of crazy because we were actually so close to my covered call, which means that I would have sold the shares at around an 8% gain on the 100 shares, and I would have been called away with earning premium. So all that is me agreeing to sell the shares at $200 and getting paid upfront for making that promise. That's all the premium really is. You're just getting paid for making a promise to either buy shares or sell shares. So we came very close to that. We didn't even wick it. We got 2 points off of it, and we just drifted lower and eventually crashed. Am I bummed about that? A little bit, because I do want to start offloading my Palantir. I'm still bullish on the stock, but in this particular case, I have been in it for a while now, and I do want to start playing some other stocks, and I do have another bunch of picks that I want to start doing, the next coming few weeks. So not being able to get out of this position kind of sucked, but on the week, we actually did have a great premium on this. I believe it was just over 1% that we earned for the week on these shares. I would think this is from early January profit taking, rotation out of high beta growth names and higher yields putting pressure on growth stocks. So I do think this is a bit of an over exaggeration currently where we're sitting right now. We did just tap into this support level right here, as you can see. So that lining up seems to be pretty good. And, I'm not exactly bummed out, but for sure it's one of those things where I do want to see this come back and we can sell these shares even a little bit lower from where the covered call position is. Even if I took a break even on this and had a really good covered call position set where I had a very high premium that could even be like, say, 3%, I would be very happy with that, just going break even on this trade. Although, like in this case, we were sitting at over 8% gains and we were collecting an over 1% premium just for selling at this price. No harm, no foul, as I like to say, but we are going to be monitoring this position very closely so that we can kind of get out of it sooner than later. But for this week, we're going to keep the shares, we kept the premium, and we're just going to wait for a better price to sell the next call at. So now moving into the cash secured put section, SanDisk was a legend of a pick this week. This expired worthless, which is exactly what I wanted, and I collected a large premium on this. It was low volatility kind of like all week, as you can see right here. Where's Monday? Monday is right here on this candle. So we kind of just trailed off for the week, and then right on Friday we had a massive pump. My cash secured put was at $230 strike price, meaning if it came down to $230, I would be assigned 100 shares at that price. And as you can see, volume came in on Friday and just mooned. So this expired worthless. The premium justified the risk on this, and that's a textbook example of respecting distance from price. Since we had such a good amount of buffer space from where price was currently trading at versus where my strike price was at, we yielded an over 1% premium, meaning I earned more than 1% on the week just for agreeing to buy the shares and then never had to buy anything at all. So this was a great pick. I was very happy with this. This is the second week in a row I've run SanDisk cash secured puts. I'm not sure if I'm going to re-up this for next week, considering that we are trading at these all-time highs right now. Obviously we are in Q1 now of 2026, meaning we are ready to go to the moon with the stock market, but for the time being, I don't really love selling cash secured puts at all-time highs. It can get you in pretty dicey situations, but overall on the week, SanDisk was a great pick, great premiums, low volatility, and when the volatility came in, it was right in my favor because it's not that I didn't want to be assigned, but I would have rather just kept the premium than starting the wheel on this stock from where it is right now. So Robinhood was actually the one that surprised me. It's kind of a miracle we didn't get assigned on this, but that's what probability does in a situation like this. Probability is just doing its thing. We pulled in about 1% premium on the week on this, and price held just enough. So this is kind of, I would say, a clean win. As you can see, we did sell the cash secured put right here, and we were a good distance away from my strike price. We dipped below it, and on Friday, I was very, very certain that I was going to be getting a sign here, but the whole point of this was a key support level, as you can see. So that's why I put the cash secured put right here. I was able to be aggressive enough where I could put a good premium in on this and have it right at a support. So even if I did get assigned at these lows, this is a good support level where I could trade and start selling some covered calls back to the highs. So me waking up on Friday, seeing this, I was, pretty darn sure that we would be assigned, but we just got some great volume and a good reversal on this that took us right out of where my strike price was, and this ended up expiring worthless, which was awesome. So we collected a great premium on this, walked away without having to buy any shares, even though I actually wouldn't have minded actually picking up shares. To me, this is going to be a clean win on the week. All right, so IREN is actually the big one that is the loser in my portfolio right now, and it did have a great recovery this week. So as I spoke about earlier in the week, we did have a cash secured put position at the $26 mark. There was a lot of room from where we started trading this week being right here versus it would have to fall down here. But since I own shares around the $50 mark, I believe it's like $51 is my average share price, you can see that we are down a good bit from that price right now. So I was trying to dollar cost average this by getting the shares at a very, very low price, which, I did want to get assigned on this. This is how I play it. Some weeks I want to get assigned on shares. Some weeks I just want to earn premiums. It depends on the stock. It depends on the situation. There's a lot that goes into actually, the playbook of what I'm doing. So IREN did form some pretty good support levels right here. And we did have a great recovery, as you can see, as we had low volume through the earlier parts of the week. Taking a look at this, this was actually a 15% recovery off those lows. So, we are coming back to my share prices, and I think we can see some pretty big things from IREN this year. And personally, I will want to see, a fat covered call position being sold on this. I'm talking like I will want to see a few percent with share gains on this because I think it has so much upside back to its highs. So selling anywhere in between this area right here with a covered call, that would earn me a lot of share price gain and would earn me a lot of premium gain. I'll update you guys how this kind of plays out over the next few weeks for sure, but I definitely do want to see how this is going to play out. I do think this is going to be a very, very great play for Q1 of this year. Personally, I do think the move here was largely driven by strength in crypto related names and improving sentiment around energy efficiency and just the relief after the recent selling pressure that we've had over the last couple weeks. Because of the bounce, not only did we not get to DCA further, but we're still holding 300 shares. No issue. The thesis is intact. So on the trading side, moving over to here, we're on gold right now, coming off of this win that we had. I did want to take some shorts right here, as I said in my last video, and I'm starting to see gold start to potentially form some interesting longs, and I wanted to break this down because this is what I will be looking at for my first trade of the year. I want to be very clear, I'm not getting aggressive with this, I'm kind of letting the market do its thing. So personally, I do think we are still seeing some early profit taking and some position rebalancing, and obviously some hesitation across the markets overall. There was a lot that went on this weekend, with Trump and Venezuela and a couple other things, so this is a very good thing to monitor in a time like this. And I am building my macro bias, which I will share the full macro bias on Monday and how I'm framing myself, for the week and for this specific kind of trade. But for now, my focus is rebuilding my rhythm, stacking my buys, and letting the market show me what the first real opportunity of 2026 is going to be. And when that presents itself, I'll take it, but nothing before. So we did have this massive sell-off on gold. As you guys know, I did love this area of interest right here that we had rejected off a couple times. We did see the break. There was no retest before continuing to the lows. Now, I did have a good macro bias framed around this. And personally, what I did want to see here was all the way down to these Asia lows that had been unmitigated, as you can see. This would have been a great TP1, and then I could have held for like a TP2 down to here as I had marked out. Unfortunately, we didn't get tagged in, and I didn't have a extremely strong macro bias on this. So it was one of those things where it's the end of the year, when was it, the 29th of December? I'm not exactly paying attention. We're like 2 days away from New Year's Eve and, rolling into the new year. So this isn't something where I'm absolutely fiending for a trade right now. But, at least my direction was correct. I was building an okay bias where I said, we could take shorts. And we saw the exact thing that I had built a bias for play out perfectly. So again, it's one of those things where there was no trade, but the bias was there. So it's nice to know that I was correct in this situation. Now, with everything going on in the world right now, I do think gold is due for, some good longs. Personally, I do like having this area of interest right here that formed of this high. As you can see, this would be a lower high, and we made a lower low right here. So all it is high, low, lower high, lower low, but I do think we could see a nice reversal coming in hot very quickly. So what I'm specifically looking for is going to be gold to do something of the following. We have this area of interest that we have tapped once now. If this low stays respected, this is very, very key to me. If this low is continued to be respected and we push off of here and start forming bullish market structure, I would like to see the break of that area of interest, a retest, and back to the highs. Now, like I said, the market structure does look very, very good on this. This could be a very clean trade, especially after such a harsh fall off right here. I do think gold will have a good recovery. The only thing I will say is I need the macro bias to line up for me on this. If the macro doesn't support this, I won't even look at this. So over the course of the next week, I am going to be paying very close attention to gold from a macro stance to see how we could get involved with a long position, seeing as we have a clean area of interest forming. Get a good break and retest of this area, and we're off to the races with the longs. We do have an unmitigated Asia double high up here, which I would be happy to trade to as a TP. But overall, since it is 2026, this is something where we could hold a lot longer to be even like a monthly plus long position, just because we are going to the new year. I would like to see gold make some new highs and new all-time highs. So this is what I'm very, very interested right now on the trading side. So to wrap all of this up, weekly options targeting at 1% per week, Palantir calls expired worthless, shares were intact, SanDisk, Rocket Lab, and Hood all expired worthless. IREN recovered and no further dollar cost averaging this week. Options did exactly what they're designed to do. My trading remains patient and not aggressive. So this was a very clean week for me, very controlled week. Forward looking is very disciplined on this. Early January is not about forcing trades. It's about, patience, positioning, and letting the market come to you to kind of get back into the rhythm of active trading. I'll keep building my bias, managing options, and waiting for the market to show me my first real shot of the year. And this is how I want to start 2026. So you guys will get a full breakdown of my trades for the week on Monday night. So with that, we'll see you guys in the next one. If you found value in this, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment if there's anything that you want to see. And with that, we'll see you guys in the next one.